Hello, and welcome to Teaching My Cat to Read, the very serious book review podcast. I'm Eli.
I'm Em.
And I'm Lottie. And this week we're discussing everything about Macbeth by William Shakespeare.
Jingle, jingle.
Mackie B!
By the pricking of my thumbs.
Something
Okay,
murderous this way
episode.
comes.
I would like to point out, I have never watched this play before. I've never read this play before. I've never studied this play before.
What did you know about it beforehand?
To be brutally honest, quite a lot of my knowledge, all I knew of Macbeth was what was quoted in the Blackadder episode. I think it's called Sensationality, where they basically just take the piss out of the fact that there's a whole joke in theatre about you can't say the word Macbeth unless you're on the stage. If you're on the stage, you have to call it the Scottish play, and if you do say the word Macbeth, you have to do a little.
You've got to ward off the demons.
Yeah, they have to do a very silly little dance, and Blackadder takes great delight in making actors do the silly little dance. Yeah.
Also, the fact that Blackadder episode gave us the great, if you stand your legs sort of really wide apart, and that's how you should stand.
The origin of the Tory power posing.
The power posing, which is quite excellent. So that, and the fact that it has three witches, and our previous reading of Weird Sisters. So when the play opens, and it says, "When shall we three meet again?" and I start giggling.
Yeah. Because my instant response is well, I can do next Tuesday. Yeah.
Yeah, next Tuesday. I was like, oh, this is great. So, absolutely no context.
Speaking of prior experience making it funnier than it has any right to be. So I think I had seen it once as a kid as there was a community theatre thing that came to our school. And I because I was a nerd, I memorised the witch's speech, but I don't think I actually finished the play. So when Lady Macbeth gets her letter and has her little monologue, my only context for that is Sophie Devereaux of Leverage doing it really, really badly.
Oh, the unsex me here.
Yeah. Spirits who tend on mortal thoughts.
And that's the first Lady Macbeth.
Yeah. It's the character introduction.
I had forgotten how early that line is. Off the rip, she is can I make me as evil as possible? I have simply got to get eviler.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, we respect her for it.
Guys, what is your terrible summary for this play?
Oh, I had so many.
Mine is just one more murder, bro. Just one, I swear. Just one more murder.
Listen, I've been trying to make that joke. I have a page full of me trying to make that joke, and that's exactly what I was going for.
Great minds.
Yeah. I also had strange women lurking on heaths distributing prophecies is no basis for a system of government.
Yeah.
Regicide, not even once.
I mean, to be honest, I just love Weird Sisters, the book, so much that it made a Shakespeare tragedy funny.
It's made you love this by the transitive property.
Yes, and it made me understand what the hell is going on. If you're listening to this and you're doing Macbeth for your GCSE and you're I want to read a companion book, go and read Weird Sisters.
See, Weird Sisters does skip out a lot of stuff. There's no Banquo in Weird Sisters. There's no his best friend that he kills or anything.
No.
The whole sort of inheritance stuff, and because the context of this is that it wasn't the done thing necessarily that a king's son would inherit. There was this system where they bounced back and forth between two branches of a royal family. And so Macbeth is a lot more complex than what Pratchett lifts of it to build Weird Sisters off of.
Oh, definitely. I guess that can be my first question. What is your previous history with this play? And when you first saw it, did you understand what was going on? Because personally, I struggled. I had the SmartNotes open with every act as I went along watching the 1979 version with Ian McKellen and Judi Dench.
Nice. I did have to keep pausing and then going back and replaying stuff because I wasn't... the broad strokes... I kind of already knew, although there were some things that kind of surprised me. And I don't really know where I picked up the broad strokes. I might have actually read the whole play when I was memorising the witches thing to be a nerd. But I don't know that I did. I might have just, lasered straight in on the witches and not given a fuck about literally anything else that was happening in the play. But yeah, on this watch, I watched the Christopher Eccleston one, which I think Eli saw live.
I did.
Yeah, and yeah, again, broad strokes, fine. General emotional, what's it, fine. There were several bits where I did have to pause and then re-listen to a couple of lines because I wasn't sure, and sometimes I still wasn't sure after I'd, what we were supposed to take from it. Like, for example, I don't know about you guys, I couldn't tell if we were supposed to think that Banquo suspected Macbeth.
I was going to raise this based off the adaptation that I just watched. Because I think they play it as, he thinks that Macbeth has killed Duncan, and he's kind of like, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, he almost doesn't, like, but then there's the bit later when, Macbeth is about to have Banquo killed, and he's like, oh, Banquo, what are you up to? You're going riding? And Banquo says, yeah. And then Macbeth says, and is your fleance going with you? And that, in this adaptation, done purely through, like, the acting, is the moment when Banquo realises that Macbeth is going to try and have him and his son killed.
Oh, okay.
And there's nothing that he can do about it. He's realised that Macbeth, having fulfilled the prophecy of having become king, is now going to try and exceed it by violating the rest of the prophecy of, Banquo's sons will be kings hereafter.
Yeah.
But that is, I don't think that's
all in the acting, rather
exactly.
than...
I think that's up to the interpretation of, like, the director and the actors.
Yeah.
You could play it either way.
Because I think I didn't really read it, in the Christopher Eccleston one, I didn't read it as him being suspicious. And I don't think he even seemed that suspicious when he went out for the ride. It was more like, oh, my friend's being a bit weird, but there wasn't like a, Oh, and the other Banquo line that I think I was kind of like, oh, which way is this supposed to go? Is when he talks about having dreamed of the weird sisters, and he talks about he's talking about having weird dreams. And it's kind of unclear whether he's beseeching the heavens to, like, not give him bad dreams, or if he's, like, trying to kind of, I don't know, say, no, don't tempt me with murder. Don't tempt me to do stupid things on the basis of the... Okay. So that was an ambiguity that I had to kind of look at, and I was like, I still don't really know whether he's just talking about having bad dreams, or if it's his version of is that a dagger I see before me, where he's kind of thinking about what he could do to hasten fate and then not actually committing to it.
Well, he's an interesting foil to Macbeth in that sense, because they both have something good promised to them by this prophecy. And initially Macbeth is like, if chance would have me be king, then chance can crown me. I'm not going to do anything about it. And at that point, you just kind of want to stop watching the adaptation and turn it off and go, and nothing bad ever happened.
Yeah. If you stop right there, you miss so many murders. So
the adaptation I just watched is 2015 adaptation with which is basically Michael Fassbender and eyeliner goes insane for an hour and 47 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
And one interesting thing that they did, without changing any of the dialogue, because I think it's not the complete play, but I don't think they add any lines. I think they just cut things out.
Yeah.
They have the initial battle where he's killing the Thane of Cawdor.
Yeah. Oh no, is he, or is the Thane of Cawdor in a different battle and then he turns out he's a traitor?
Is he? Or it's the initial battle that opens the play.
Yes, yeah.
And there's a boy there of about, like, let's say 15, that Macbeth is clearly close to and is helping him prepare for battle and whatever, and he gets killed.
Right.
And when there's is this a dagger I see before me scene happens, he's hallucinating that boy holding up the dagger to him.
Oh, that's so juicy!
Yeah, and it's a bit like masterpiece and sort of seminal work of human creativity, Troy 2004, 2005, I forget, which is an adaptation of the Iliad and plays it completely ambiguously as to whether or not or not even ambiguously, it just gets rid of the supernatural elements. And in this adaptation, it's very ambiguous whether or not anything supernatural is going on or any ghosts are really there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, they did the same thing in the 1979 version. Like, the camera's on Ian McKellen's face as he's, like, seeing the ghost, but you don't see a ghost.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting. There's, like, two different productions doing effectively the same thing.
But,
I mean, it's sort of an obvious, but no less interesting for being obvious way to play it. You also have the thing where the Macbeths don't have any kids, right? But at one point, Lady Macbeth says, "I have given suck." So they presumably had a child that died. And in this adaptation, Marion Cotillard is Lady Macbeth, and her scene where she's doing "Out damn Spot," who would have thought the man would have so much blood in him, which is such a cool line.
Yeah.
She is hallucinating a young child who looks quite unwell.
Okay.
Which is, I think, supposed to be the kid that they lost.
See, this is interesting because this brings me to one of my favourite adaptation beats that in the one that I watched, which again is about the ghosts and about the kind of the ambiguity of what people are seeing. But I checked it against the text, and so the second witch's prophecy, the one with the none of woman born shall harm Macbeth, and till Burnham Wood to high Dunsinane Hill, etc. And in the script, it's at least two of the ghosts are spooky children. So you could, I wonder if one of those is maybe meant to be their kid that had died, perhaps. But anyway, the thing I enjoyed about the Christopher Eccleston adaptation was actually they replaced the spooky children with people that we know Macbeth's already killed.
That happens in the adaptation I watched too. So the one who says, "None, be bold, be bloody," is again the boy that died in the initial battle. Nice.
Yeah, no, I think in the Chris Eccleston, it's Duncan and Banquo, and I think at one point I don't know if this is actually in the script, but it's sort of, there's definitely two of the servants, Macbeth's servants, are having a conversation, and one of them is the guy that I think then goes and kills Macduff's kids later, and the other servant is having a bit of the fool's thing from Weird Sisters, where he's like, "Oh no, I definitely didn't see anything, I just made a kind of stupid joke about how this is all Macbeth's fault, and now this guy's giving me the eye," and it's like, okay. And I think he's one of the prophecy ghosts in the Christopher Eccleston, which is fun.
A fun fact about the ghost. Well, I say a fun fact. Hopefully, I've got this right. If there is any scholars of Macbeth listening, and they're like, "Lottie, that is completely incorrect," please email us and tell me that I'm wrong. But I just found this from a YouTube video on BBC Bite Size because I was trying to understand what the hell the context was for this play. Because in comparison to, say, Much Ado, which I watched completely, I remember the first time I watched it, I was 11, I had no context for it, loved it, completely understood basically what was going on in the play, obviously to a degree. Hamlet mainly followed the plot. Like Macbeth, I genuinely quite struggled to understand the language of it, even though it's obviously the same language. I was like, okay, what's the context? So the context behind this play is that King James has just been crowned King of England the year before this play is written. So he's the first king of Scotland and England, and he liked spooky supernatural things. So not only is the play like a sort of, I guess, homage to his Scottish ancestors, because
it's sucking up to him in that way.
It's his Aeneid.
It's also like, hey, you like ghosts, I chucked some ghosts in here for you. Do you
there's
like
that one
New
bit
King?
where there's a ghost that's holding there's the all of Banquo's descendants, and some of them are holding 3 scepters and 2 orbs or something. That is a reference to them being the king of England, Scotland, Wales, and being crowned twice. And so
he's descended from Banquo's.
Yeah.
Apparently, yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. I didn't know that.
Yes. Yeah, so the idea is that, eventually Fleance turns back up and becomes king, and thus begins the Stuarts.
Right. And so one of, the interpretations of what I was watching in this video was the saying that because the gunpowder plot was the year prior to this play / when James just coming about, the fact that and again, I might be quoting this completely incorrectly. I feel like I'm not a literary critic, but I thought it was just quite an interesting fact that how in medieval times you had, your god king. The king was the god on earth, effectively, if that's correct. If I'm correct in that understanding,
divine right.
Yeah,
divine right to rule. I think,
and in the play, Macbeth is effectively upsurring that order because he's killing.
Well, again, you have because Macbeth is based on a real person who existed. Macbeth was a real guy, and there was I think it was called Holinshed's Histories that Shakespeare based his Macbeth off, and the Holinshed Histories took a lot of liberties with the actual histories, which we know a little of.
Okay, cool.
And so in that context, you would have this system called tanistry where the crown, the Scottish kings were elected rather than hereditary, but it bounced back and forth between two branches of the family, basically.
Right.
And it would have been Macbeth's turn after Duncan, or Macbeth's side of the family's turn.
Oh, so the fact that Duncan specifically names Malcolm early on is actually like...
Yes, is unusual and is sort of...
And it's an insult to Macbeth rather than just...
It would have ruffled some feathers.
Okay,
But in
yeah.
the context of, I guess, when this play was shown, the king would have been, like, that would have been hereditary.
It would have been more normal for people to expect a crown to be
Yeah.
hereditary, yeah. I don't know how much, your 1500s English theatre goer knows about 11th century Scottish hereditary systems.
I mean, probably pretty limited,
Yeah.
given, like, Shakespeare also wrote, like, all of the Hollow Crown, like, all the historical
exactly.
ones, that... there's a very good opportunity there, as everything, history's written by the winners.
Yeah, but it's one of the arguments for why nobody goes, oh well, it must have been Macbeth who killed Duncan because he's the one who'll get the crown now. Because, well, to be fair, he didn't know Malcolm would flee, but Duncan naming Malcolm as his heir while he was still alive was an upset, or could have been perceived as an upset.
Oh, okay.
And so there might have been several people who were just like, you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
You get it in the neck now.
Huh.
At least that is my understanding.
Yeah, I didn't know any of this, the inheritance stuff. That's really interesting. Because I picked up on in our adaptation, the fact that Duncan being named heir seemed to be a point of contention, or they were deliberately drawing attention to it as a like, something's a bit,
Yeah, it wasn't taken for granted that would be the case. And Macbeth, as an incredibly loyal person who Duncan is clearly sort of setting up to be important. There's a bit about, I have planted thee and now I will try and grow thee well or something. He could maybe expect in time to be named the heir or to succeed to the throne when Duncan dies of natural causes, except then Duncan goes and names Malcolm heir.
Yeah.
Sort of thus, and there's this line where he says Prince of Cumberland, I must either fall here or leap, because this is in the way of me becoming king, because Prince of Cumberland is the position that the heir of the throne has.
Like the Prince of Wales, but...
Yeah.
Huh.
So he's sort of forced to either abandon the prophecy or act to make it happen, because it's no longer something that's going to simply happen, necessarily.
Huh. That does put a different spin on it, yeah.
Well, I mean, somebody else, again, if he hadn't murdered Duncan, maybe somebody else would have, because that's not the done thing. You can't be naming your son heir while he's still alive.
Right.
And maybe he would have become king without ever having to do a murder and go insane. But his wife would have thought he was a pussy, so.
I think that's one of the hard things, like, when you're reading this, like, at school or, like, for an exam, that wider context, if you're not, like, explained that, it makes it quite inaccessible. I think as a text, like with Hamlet, I feel I still struggled slightly, but because you didn't have that wider political background, which I think Macbeth definitely is riffing off.
Yeah, situated within.
Like with the fact that Queen Elizabeth's died, King James has come in. He's, Shakespeare's trying to curry favour to a degree, I guess, with the new king.
Although there's scholars argue that he's sort of trying to subtly be like, actually, this whole hereditary king thing is nonsense.
Who do you think is more evil? Macbeth or Lady Macbeth?
I mean, from the off, she is like, let's do murder.
She's just straight away, obviously murder. Obviously, we immediately, and she doesn't even know about Malcolm having been named the heir, as far as we know. That's not in the bit of the letter that
I mean, that doesn't happen until after she has already resolved to do murder. She says to Macbeth, let's do murder, and he's like, no, Duncan is the king, and I won't do this horrible thing. And then Duncan names Malcolm heir, and Macbeth goes, murder's starting to sound more appealing.
Yeah. But see, this is interesting, isn't it? Because Lady Macbeth is in order to do even more evil, I must depart from gender. No more of that. Spirits, degender me, please. It's time to do murder.
This womanhood is taking up space in my soul used for evil.
Yeah. Uninstall it so that there's more room for murder. But then she also goes in and immediately, the main thing, at least this is how it came across to me, the main thing that she's using to motivate Macbeth to do murder is not, he slighted you by switching to...
in your own house, no less. He's in your house for one night and then he basically sort of disinherits
and he disrespects you like this.
Yeah.
It's not that he's nicer to Banquo, which is a thing that the adaptation I watched was kind of playing with, that the king is kind of like saying nice things to Macbeth, but like he's like really huggy and like much more enthusiastic about Banquo. And she's not like riffing on any of that. She immediately is like, if you can't do a murder on the turn of a coin, if you can't do a murder as soon as I go, hey, go murder that dude, are you even a man? And it's like, whoa, okay.
I mean, toxic masculinity in the year like 1032 was off the charts.
Oh, say it ain't so. But yeah, it was just, and then Macbeth later uses that to try and motivate the guys that he kind of sets on Banquo. Which I thought was really interesting. Oh, it was a fun little, we're just going to pass that along. We know this is a thing that makes people do murder.
And then you can contrast the masculinity of Macduff when he learns that his family's been killed by Macbeth. And he's crying, and Malcolm says, I've tried to remember what the exact word is. You must sort of, respond to this as a man. You must, sort of take revenge, whatever. And Macduff says, yeah, and in order to do that, I must feel it as a man. And these, the departure of these things that were most precious to me. He's defending his tears as being manly.
Yeah. I've got to say, that was another scene that was it was weird to me, because on the one hand, I think it was, of the adaptation I saw, it was the most moving. The way he keeps just saying, what? He's like a stuck record. He can't, understandably, he can't move off the point. And the actor, it was superb, honestly. I got chills. But then the line, what, all my pretty chickens in their dam.
Their dam, oh my God, yeah.
So the thing about that is that I first heard that line quoted in a Lord Peter Wimsey novel about a chess set that's been smashed with a poker.
That's yeah.
I think it's about the chess. It's either about the chess set or it's about the port being shaken.
Yeah.
Because Bunter gets really mad about the port having been shaken.
Thing is, I don't know if I could adopt that into my lexicon for minor inconveniences, because I do think that the Macduff scene is so sad. And, the untimely death of my loved ones is a genuine fear that will keep me up at night, because that's how my anxiety works. So I have, I think that scene is incredibly powerful. And I now want to go back and rewatch the Chris Eccleston one, because you've said
it's totally worth it.
Yeah.
But I think that's interesting as well, because I think the Macduffs in general are the people that I had the most empathy for in this whole play.
I mean, they're hero antagonists, right? Or Macduff is. Because you've got the villain protagonist. Yeah, you've got the villain protagonist of Macbeth. And Macduff is actually the sort of the hero of the narrative in some ways. But yeah. They're just like a loving family who get totally fucked for no reason other than Macbeth's paranoia.
Yeah. I think it is an interesting reversal that me and Lottie are having, because I actually found Hamlet a lot harder to follow than Macbeth.
Okay.
And I find Macbeth, I'm like, yeah, there's supernatural shit, I'm into that. There's like courtly medieval murder, I know all about that. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I'm good to go with that. And then Hamlet is just like, there's so much talking and I don't understand any of it. But I think also the other thing that I found interesting was that Hamlet, there are very few people that I actually, when I watched it, I felt like I empathized with. And I want to say Ophelia, and intellectually usually it's Ophelia, but I've never really seen a production that really made me go, oh my God, I am feeling for this person right now.
I mean, you spend so much of that play inside Hamlet's own head, right? And it's very much, it's so much from his point of view and his sort of emotions.
Yeah. I guess also with Hamlet, I'm trying to think that actually with Macbeth, the only piece of it that I'm aware from the text is the double toil and trouble. That's it. I don't know any of the speeches. I'm not aware of any of those. Whereas in Hamlet, I felt like I knew Hamlet's main speech, to be or not to be. I recognised alas poor Yorick song. Oh, okay, Yorick. Okay, I get that. Whereas this, I have And I guess with Hamlet, I did struggle with the names of the characters and trying to keep track of who's what, where, when, and why.
Yeah.
But with this, although there's fewer characters, and I guess I kept up with the character names easier, the actual understanding of the text itself, like the language used, I found more difficult. Now, was that because I was watching the 1979 version on YouTube, which was ripped off a VHS tape? Possibly a contributing factor.
Who can say? I'm sure that had nothing to do with it.
But I just wanted to watch it like late 30s Ian McKellen and Judi Dench do.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
The play.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they were very good at it, even if I didn't have a clue what they were talking about half the time and had to keep on with SparkNotes. But yeah, it's quite interesting. Yeah, different plays. Not resonate, but understanding.
Yeah, what they speak to you, or that they're easier. They click in your brain in a way that the others don't. It was interesting you were talking about like what you were familiar with, because I mean, a bit like with Hamlet, I was very surprised by how much of it I recognised. Like there were bits of it that just live rent free in my head that I had no idea were Macbeth.
Him seeing Banquo's ghost at the feast is it's so funny in the adaptation I watched, because everybody is stood there like in silence in this big stone hall while Macbeth and the murderer and Lady Macbeth are like having these conversations, and it's not made clear, or at least I didn't think it was clear, how much we're supposed to think that everyone in the room is just hearing it all. And like, I am not looking, I do not hear it, you know.
Yeah, things like the make assurance doubly sure and screw your courage to the sticking place, and there were chunks of tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. I'm ashamed to admit I remembered because of Hamilton. But Stars Hide Your Fires, that's one of my favourite Gays in Space Do Crime books, is called Stars Hide Your Fires. It's everywhere, you know.
Oh, they use that in Mumford & Sons as well, in Sigh No More, which I think of as a Much Ado song, but it's I guess it's a mishmash of Shakespeare stuff. But
it's got a lot of Much Ado in it, I think. But yeah, it's,
who is, while we're talking, I guess, on topics of evil and gender roles, mansplain, manipulate male wife in this play? Who best embodies?
Manipulate has got to be Lady Macbeth in the beginning, and I think Macbeth is male wife because he genuinely loves her. Like they textually have one of the happiest marriages before they both like go insane because of murder.
No. See, this is interesting because now we're forced to confront I'm forced to confront some of my internal like what's it of masculinity and also male wifedom. Because I
mean Macduff, male wife also maybe.
Yes, because is murder male wife behaviour? That's
true. Well, is male wife intrinsically moral?
That's a good point. Exactly. This is what I'm saying. Like, what are my internal biases here? Am I actually going, I don't think male wives do murder. What does that say about,
Well, if the wife wants him to, surely.
Yeah.
I might take back manipulate as Lady Macbeth and put it on the witches. Which is, it's an open question, right? Whether or not they actually know anything or versus they're just kind of fucking around.
See, because I feel like there's a great background novel in whatever Macbeth did to piss off three witches so much that they were like,
ruin his life.
We're going to wreck your whole shop, actually.
Yeah. we're going to give you hubris.
Where is the backstory?
I feel like mansplain, I'm just going to say Duncan. I don't have any real,
There's not a lot of mansplaining in this, really.
No, unless we're counting So, did your guys' adaptation make a big deal of the porter?
No.
Okay. So the Christopher Eccleston adaptation has a guy who's sitting on the side of the stage, and you don't realise until half an hour in that he's actually part of the play. But he's marking on the wall with chalk whenever anybody gets murdered. He's got a tally system going.
Oh, okay.
But he's also a guy who is doing when Macduff arrives. He's trying to stall him from going up to see Duncan by talking about how drink fucks with your dick, I guess. But no, there's dick jokes in this, which that surprised me. I wasn't expecting that.
Oh, yes. The whiplash in between Macbeth killing Duncan and Duncan's body being discovered. Yes.
Yeah.
That got cut from the adaptation that I watched, but I did read that scene.
because they really made the porter, it was like a really interesting, like very unsettling through line. It's like he wasn't on anybody's side, and you were starting to wonder if he was some kind of supernatural entity also. That was kind of the vibe I got from that, which was really fun. I had forgotten where I was going with this.
He's mansplaining whiskey dick to Macduff.
Yes, that's it. That's the bugger. You're so right. But yeah, that's my take on that. And then, of course, manslaughter. If we are separating the two words and simply going slaughter performed by a man, Macbeth is clearly...
Yes.
None of this is accidental, even though he seems to think... Definitely in the Banquo speech, he's going, I didn't kill you, so there's no reason to look at me like that, weird spirit.
No one here can say that I did it, you know.
I only bullied and... Actually, he bullies and manipulates people into going to kill Banquo for him.
And then a third guy just shows up. He gets two guys to go and do the hit, and then a third guy is just there, and the other two, like, designated murderers are just like, I guess we have an unannounced buddy. And it's never really spoken of.
Oh, see, then that's not a thing in the one I saw.
Yeah, various adaptations omit it or have it be another, like, character from the cast. There's one short story that has it be Macduff who's playing both sides for some reason.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
No, I think if they were going to have that guy in at all, it would have been... so my adaptation, there is a guy that is clearly, like, Macbeth's murder minion. And he's the guy that comes in... I think he comes in during the Banquo scene, and he's got blood.
The third murderer is the one who shows up, yeah, and has blood on him, and goes.
See, I think the adaptation I watched was implying that he's the guy that kills off the two that killed Banquo. Like he's the cleaner, because he's also the guy that goes and he's leading the charge against Macduff's family later, and he's also the guy that killed the kitchen boy that made the stupid jokes. So he's like a through line in the Christopher Eccleston adaptation that like that's a consistent clean-up dude. Yeah.
Yeah, I think some adaptations have the third murderer be Macbeth himself. Like sort of there to make sure the job gets done. But then that contradicts the like, you know, I didn't do it bit.
Well, and it also contradicts the them coming to inform him that they've done it, and the fact that he doesn't know that Fleance has made it. But yeah. Okay, so this, I'm kind of been thinking about while we've been talking about sort of, you know, Macbeth is, you know, how evil is Macbeth and kind of the supernatural elements. Do we think Macbeth would have killed Duncan if the witches hadn't told him he was going to be king?
No, I do not think that.
Because I'm not even sure that Lady Macbeth would have immediately jumped to murder if...
It's the sort of, the initial confirmation of the prophecy that they call him Thane of Cawdor before he knows. But after it's been decided, but before he knows. Yeah. And then he finds out and he goes, well, they know something. Yeah. And, like, without that, I don't even think the prophecy is that convincing. Because he and Banquo sort of laugh it off initially.
Yeah.
And it's only after it's like, oh no, you are the Thane of Cawdor. They were right. That he starts to go, well, they must have been right about everything else, which is a classic logical fallacy.
It's also one of those, it's really tasty for me specifically because I did an essay on prophecy poems in my undergrad, and one of the things they talk about is the reason that a lot of prophecy poems do a like, we didn't start the fire-esque rendition of a lot of things, is that they're claiming to have been written earlier than they were, and then going, oh, see, look, I correctly predicted all of these things that happened in history. You know, 7th century Merlin or whatever, in my forest sitting, talking to apple trees and small pigs, I predicted, so there's this kind of like, and I think that's also true of like, cold and hot reading in like fake psychic gigs.
Yeah, it's not quite a sunk cost fallacy thing, but it's like once someone's got one thing right, you're more likely to believe.
Yeah.
Like, they sort of buy a little bit of your trust or good faith with it.
And, you know, they'll use something that most people wouldn't go, oh, that's something that somebody could have plausibly found out about me. But, you know, there is a way to do it.
Yeah, I think without some reasonable, or like, you know, without having some actual belief that killing Duncan will benefit him in a way that wouldn't happen otherwise, he would never do it. Because even with that belief, he struggles with it hugely, right?
Yeah. At least initially. And then he's like, well, I've had a taste and now I'm sort of addicted and I'm just gonna...
Like, once you pop, the murders do not stop. But that initial killing for Macbeth. Because, and Lady Macbeth isn't really that involved, I think, with the rest of the murders.
Yeah.
She sort of goes, you know, like, do what you gotta do.
I mean, the adaptation that I watched was really like... She's really freaked out that he won't stop doing murders. She's like, oh shit, what have I done?
Exactly. And in the adaptation I watched, her breaking point is, so instead of having the Macduff family like slaughtered in their home, they have the wife and children be like out riding while Macduff has gone off to go and find Malcolm, and have them be captured and then brought to Dunsinane and burned alive.
Oof.
Yes. And so, like, all of the, like, residents of the castle are there watching this happen, and Macbeth is, like, full mask off, like, very well, call me a tyrant, but no man can stand against me, right? Who can check our power? Shit. And Lady Macbeth is there just, like, crying and freaking out. And I think it's extra powerful with the idea that, like, she's lost a kid, and she's up there looking at kids who might be the same age as hers would have been.
Yeah.
And that's the moment where she's like, oh, that's her despair event horizon.
Yeah.
And then right after that, you get the out damn spot speech. Which I think is a pretty good... It's less even that she, like, goes insane, and it's more that she realises how deep shit they're in.
Yeah.
Like, morally. And just kind of, like, pieces out.
Well, I think that's kind of the thing, isn't it? Is in going back to Hamlet again, with Hamlet, it's like his conscience is stopping him from just, like, straight up doing... Or something is stopping him. Going backwards and forwards in his head. Being conflicted about murder is, like, most of the play.
Yeah. My boy's got that moral OCD, yeah.
Yeah, and in this one, they do the murder first, and then they're being conflicted about... The freaking out about the murder, the differing ways in which that first murder breaks them both is what causes the rest of the play to happen, which is kind of an interesting reversal.
It's so funny also thinking about, like, there was a real Lady Macbeth. We know her first name. It was Gruach, I think.
Oh,
I don't actually know how you pronounce it. But, like, we don't really know very much about her other than that and, like, some of the timelines of, like, when members of her family lived and died. She was married to somebody else before Macbeth, his cousin, that he killed, I think. But I don't think that's the king that... I don't think that's Duncan, because the real historical Duncan died because he invaded Macbeth's lands. Macbeth killed him on the field of battle and then ruled peacefully for 17 years.
Wow! Talk about smearing a guy after he died, like,
right?
What?
It's such character assassination, like, particularly of Lady Macbeth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, that's egregious. What the hell?
I know, but the thing is, again, it's massaging history, or, like, you know, completely making it up, because the king is going to watch it, and you don't want to be like, well, actually, the guy that was killed in order to have the people who would eventually become your ancestors on the throne was, like, pretty decent, actually, and just ruled well for 17 years. Yeah. And was eventually killed. I'm not sure. But is Lady Macbeth, the character in the play, evil? I think to jump to murder immediately, not just to have the intrusive thought, but to be like, yeah, let's do it.
And she's, like, really enthusiastic.
Yeah, it's a bit of a jump. It's like, no, he's coming tonight, so we shall kill him now.
Yeah. It's like, man, these things take more than 24 hours to plan. Come on.
Well, that's the other thing. I feel like it's also a thing that's going to very much depend on how you decide to play it, right? Because you can potentially make the spirits who tend on mortal thoughts speech to be at her genuinely being like, well, I've had the idea. Shit, I'm actually really scared of doing the idea, but I'm pretty sure it's got to be done. Like, instead of, I mean, the one I saw was very much like she's just very enthusiastic about murder. She's not conflicted about it at all. And it's more for the drama that she's being like, oh, evil spirits, help me do this evil thing. I definitely didn't come up with it all on my own and was totally happy to just do it straight.
Yeah, I've got to say, of the adaptation I watched, I think one of the weakest parts were the Lady Macbeth monologues.
Oh, that's a shame.
I think they are really, I think they're difficult to do because they're kind of really over the top, and they use even denser, more sort of, even denser language and more metaphor than most of the rest of it, I feel.
Yeah. I will say, like, Judy Dench knocked it out of the park. Like, I had no idea what she was talking about, but it was creepy. I was like, I'm creeped out. I'm like, I have no clue what you're talking about, lady, but you are creeping me out.
I want to know what it's talking about, you know? If if I can't parse what they're meaning by the pretty words, then I get annoyed.
Okay, that's fair. I think with me, I find that, like, often, particularly with Shakespeare, less with other theatre stuff, is that if the actors are carrying the emotion well enough, I don't get too bogged down in the details. Like, if the actors are giving enough that it
doesn't harm my understanding, but it harms my enjoyment.
Yeah, which I don't really have, but I think I have trained myself over the years to not get mad when I don't understand things in fiction, because otherwise, like, I'm not that bright. Sometimes it takes me a few goes to get these things.
Come on, how many degrees do you have?
No, okay, but like, there's a lot of stuff
you are a certified smart person.
Okay, thank you. But okay, let me reframe. Sometimes I find, quite often I find that I struggle with following complicated plots in books, or working out, depending on the language, what I'm being told, what I'm supposed to take away from stuff, particularly with like complicated sci-fi worlds or murder mysteries. And I've found that in order to maintain, I've sort of trained myself to not mind when I don't understand stuff. Because if I didn't, there's a lot of genre that I really love that I would have just thrown away, because I would have been banging my head against, why don't I understand this? Why don't I understand this? I think a little bit I trained myself on board games, actually, because Ro and a lot of our other friends...
board games are a different thing. I play for fun, not to win.
Yeah,
I play for comedy.
And the thing is that I used to find them in some ways quite, like, now I'm very much like, this is a very chill thing that I enjoy doing with my friends. But initially, when it was something that I was just being introduced to, I found it really hard to get the rules. I found it really hard to learn new games. And I had to learn to not mind that I felt really stupid for not being able to get this stuff. Because otherwise it was ruining this, like, very fun, chill, social thing for me. So I had to just be like, no, doesn't matter at all. This is not the point of any of this. And I think that carried over into fiction a little bit. Anyway, that was a big long rant that did.
But no, I mean, I think when it comes to stuff like Shakespeare, it really, like, it affects how you, I was about to say consume. It affects how the thing lands with you.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, I'm more of a person who, like, if I'm reading something and I get to something I don't understand and it's Shakespeare, like, I'll go and look it up because people have written essays about this stuff or whatever. Or I'll reread and see if there's context that I missed, or, you know, but that takes more time and more effort. And I also do not read as much as you do, in part because I spend a lot of effort when I read stuff, and so I put it off because I'm lazy. Or because, you know, I don't always have the spoons, or it isn't what I want to spend them on. But maybe I should take a leaf out of your book and I'd read more.
I think it's like, it's definitely, like, for me as a dyslexic TM, a certified dyslexic, don't speak for us all, just speak for me.
Multiple dyslexic diplomas from Dyslexic University.
Exactly. Like, it's kind of weird because I think it's one of those things where, like, when I was younger, love reading, but I love reading fantasy. But there are definitely fantasy books that I vibe with, and, like, author, I guess, tone of voice that I vibe with, like, definitely so, for example, with like Tolkien, I find that much easier to consume with audiobook. I think I mentioned on the podcast. Whereas,
I mean, and his language is designed to be spoken, honestly.
Beautiful to listen to. I much prefer listening to it. Whereas, say, like Brand Sanson, reading, I like reading the book. And I mean, Wheel of Time, I've always read that book. And I guess it's kind of the same with, like, Shakespeare. You vibe with some, you don't vibe with others, and there's no, like, rhyme or reason, but it's not I don't think it's a comment on, like,
it's not a moral thing or a
no, it's or even an intellectual thing necessarily. No, it's just what speaks to you.
And I think I mean, coming back to my point that I think I made a couple of times on a podcast with like Shakespeare, but not only Shakespeare, but like classical literature, because if anyone's been listening to the podcast since we started this, my classical, air quotes, like classic lit readings before we start this podcast was what I did for GCSE English. Like, I'm just trying to think. I don't think I'd read any classic literature for the joy of reading classic literature, because I had assumed that, I'm not good at spelling and therefore I don't do this reading thing. And I think with Macbeth, like now I've got a bit more of the context to play, and we've had our discussion about it. I'm sure at some point I'll go and watch a different adaptation of it, and I'll get a bit more from it.
Yeah.
And I guess, one of those things with Shakespeare, you kind of got to keep trying. If you're listening to this and you're, I don't know, doing it for GCSE and you're struggling, that's okay. You might not vibe with the play. You just go and write whatever Spark Note says in the exam and get the grade. But, it doesn't mean it doesn't fundamentally mean you are a flawed person because...
Or that you won't enjoy it later in life, or any other Shakespeare, or, literature in general.
Don't write it off just because you've had a single experience with one single play or book.
And don't let anyone else convince you that it means you just can't enjoy this stuff.
Don't let yourself write yourself off for it.
Yeah,
either.
exactly. Because you're so constrained. Like I felt at school, I struggled a lot because people assumed, you can't spell and you can't do grammar, and therefore you can't do English. Like the classic. You like arts or sciences, and I like maths, so I could do that. And I don't know. It's I was getting somewhere with this point, but it's one of those things where it's not about smartness or understanding. It's sometimes you vibe, sometimes you don't. Either way is fine. Like, doesn't actually matter,
And I think that's a nice thing about Shakespeare, and I think theatre in general actually is often if you don't get it from one adaptation, there's probably one out there that will help you get it. Yeah. Like, not always, because I still don't get Hamlet, but...
It's one of the things about plays where, like, what we consider the canonical version is what's written, but that's not complete. Yeah. In the sense that it's missing more than half of what makes the story live. And every single adaptation is its own version. Like, we could do an episode on each adaptation and discuss each of them, and those would be different stories. Like, we've just spoken about whether or not we think Banquo knew that Macbeth was going to try and off him, and the evilness of Lady Macbeth in different adaptations. And I think that it's kind of unique among stuff that we do on this podcast, certainly, but literature in that way, is that what you read on the page is so unfinished or incomplete compared to how it's meant to be experienced.
And I think that's the joy of watching different adaptations. Like, I'm pretty sure there's a recent one. It was either recently or going to be. No. Did David Tennant do Macbeth recently?
Yes, he did, yeah.
Oh, was it recent? Okay.
Yeah, recently. I'm pretty sure. One of my siblings went and watched it. I was very jealous. But again, had no clue what was going on, but enjoyed it all the same. And
thinking of adaptations, I have one to recommend, which is a weird one, which is the Shakespeare Retold. BBC did 4 adaptations. They did Macbeth. They did Much Ado. And then I think they did they do The Taming of the... I can't remember. But their Macbeth is set in a restaurant. And it's Duncan's restaurant.
Oh, yeah, I think I've heard of this one.
And it's James McAvoy as Macbeth, and the 3 witches are 3 bin men, and instead of Burnham, Winchell-Compton, Dunsinane, it's When Pigs Fly, and at the end you have cops coming in on a chopper.
Right. Lol. Okay, also, I cannot believe we've gotten this far without mentioning that in the Christopher Eccleston adaptation, the witches are 3 children. They're 3 spooky girls in matching onesies, and they are so scary.
Speaking in sync or just out of sync, or bouncing the lines between them one word at a time, and
that's kind of creepy.
It's terrifying.
It's really, really
it's
good.
So good. Yeah, that was an inspired choice. Yeah.
Again, the joy of different adaptations, different people's interpretation of it, and like what you can take away from it. I want to ask a fun, silly question. If we put a fictional detective in this play, would they solve the crime of the murders?
How far would Macbeth get before Poirot was like, you see the little grey cells?
Well, wouldn't he just kill Poirot?
That's true, yeah. It's a
Poirot.
Fundamentally different genre, isn't it? If Columbo turned up and was like, just one more thing, he'd just get stabbed. Like,
yeah.
Sorry, mate.
I feel like all our detectives are too squishy to be in these stories.
Do we think Holmes could survive a very angry medieval king coming at him with a sword?
Interesting. I mean, does Watson have a revolver?
I was going to say, is Watson going to step in front and be like, parry this, you fucking casual? Or
oh my god, one of my favourite images in the world. The knight in full plate armour with a gun.
It's like, I'm ready to put a gun to the knife fight.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, so I have a twist on this classic question, which is, would a necromancer help?
Oh boy. Oh. Okay, so who what necromancers have we got? We've got Sabriel, we've got the Locked Tomb kind of class of necromancers.
Yeah, Lyriel. We still haven't done the Untamed, so technically, or the Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, so even though that's one of my go-to necromancers.
Yeah.
I would love to see Harrow and Lady Macbeth have a conversation. I think that would be amusing.
Harrow would just be like, this is also boring and pedestrian.
Yeah. Let me just reanimate some corpses, and then Macbeth's just like crying in a corner, gently rocking backwards and forwards, going, oh my god, they've come back to life.
Wayward Shan would just be like, you do you, boo. Like, Wayward Shan does not judge, I feel.
Wayward Shan's just like, well, nobody's accusing me of these murders, so I'm going to leave now.
Yeah.
I feel like Harrow thematically is probably one of the most appropriate fictional necromancers to be in this story, because there is a lot of, is this character really seeing what they think they're seeing?
Oh boy, we haven't done Harrow yet for the podcast.
Oh shit, no, you're right. Sorry.
No. We have not.
Foreshadowing.
We'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
Sabriel's just stabbing people. Sabriel's just like, well, I hate this guy, he's dead now.
I do feel like putting Gideon Nav into this story would be very funny.
Apart from anything else, because she's much better with this. I'm just calling this
she's
now.
Got a big sword and she can kill people with it.
She's much better with a sword than I think Macbeth is. I've decided.
Oh, yeah.
Gideon would win in a one-on-one fight. Also, by prophecy, can she kill Macbeth? Do we think whatever that's actually a Harrow spoiler again. Never mind. Shush, I'm not talking. I'm done. Shush.
Yeah, because it is none of woman born, not no man of woman born, isn't it?
I tell you what, isn't that the same thing that's in Hamlet, though? That is it in Hamlet? I want to say, is it in Hamlet?
The no man of woman born thing is Macbeth.
So why is that? Why am I thinking? I've definitely heard that before in another.
Oh, I mean, it gets brought up like it's become a massive thing.
I definitely think
no man of woman born.
Is there a book that we've? Oh, I'm trying to think now,
darling. It's Lord of the Rings. It's Lord of the Rings.
No, is it Lord of the Rings?
We haven't even talked about Tolkien watching this play and getting mad, which is why you have Ents that are trees that walk, and Birnam Wood will come to Dunsinane under its own power, not because it's been chopped up. And you have no man.
That I am no man. Yeah,
exactly. That is it. Genuinely Tolkien watching Macbeth and going, well, those prophecies were stupid. I can solve them in a better way. But I thought the line was none of woman born, but maybe it's been sort of, or maybe it appears more than once. I don't know. Be
bloody, bold, and resolute, laugh to scorn the power of man, for none of women born can harm.
I think
it's implied by the scorning the power of man that the none is referring back to the man. I think.
Yeah, maybe. And, like, because it has seeped into pop culture as no man of woman born, and then you get all of the, like, well, why couldn't it be a woman or a hobbit?
Oh, okay, sorry. So I was reading that as, like, the guy was born by C-section.
Yes, and that is how Shakespeare solves it.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think, there is definitely a book that we've read that has exact same point, and I cannot think what it is. And it's
that someone's born by cesarean, and therefore they don't count for some prophecy.
Yeah, they don't count for the prophecy because they have been born by cesarean, and it's going to bother me.
If that is a thing that was written after Macbeth, it is a reference to Macbeth.
It's definitely after Macbeth, and it's definitely a reference to it.
Yeah,
and it's going to bother me. I'm going to sit here quietly contemplate.
Just go through our catalogue of episodes, being like, does this have that in it?
I think the general gist I'm getting from this is that I don't think a necromancer would help, but it would be fun.
Yes. Like, there's no helping, really, is there? Like, once the first murder has happened, I mean, it's a good tragedy in that way, because it could not have happened any other way, except all the ways in which it could, but if it had, they wouldn't be the same characters.
I do, it's kind of interesting, weirdly, and this is going to out me as such a fucking Star Wars nerd, but the thing that his murder rampage actually reminds me of very much is the fall of Anakin Skywalker, because it is like you could literally just stop doing murder at any point, and he's like, no, I'm going to back up those previous murders with a bunch of more murders.
Yeah, it's like after he's killed Duncan, he and Lady Macbeth are hanging out, and he's like, Banquo, though. I could kill Banquo. It's like, you do not have to. And he's just like, it came to him that the thought came into his head that he could kill Banquo. What was I reading recently that said something about, like, it's Tolkien in the Silmarillion that whenever he wants to say that a character is about to do something really stupid, he writes, and the thought came into his head that he might do this.
Yeah.
The thought, it came to him.
It came to him in a dream. It came to him in a vision.
And that's exactly what happens to Macbeth, is that he's just like, well, I've invented a problem and I will solve it with murder. Because, like, Banquo likes him. Banquo's not going to do shit, even if he did think Macbeth had killed Duncan.
I've murdered the previous problems, but new problems have emerged. The old problems have been murdered, but...
If we do Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, The Untamed, we're going to have to give it multiple episodes, because I would want to talk about the TV show more than the book, because I've read the book. But,
oh, trust me, once you've read the book, you're going to want to talk about it.
Okay, so series 5, we'll just add that onto our list. Yeah.
I mean, at some point we've got to have a series that's just Discworld, just to get through it all. But
I was thinking Lord of the Rings series, actually.
Guys, we're going to be doing this until we're OAPs in a care home. Did you not?
Absolutely,
did you not know what we're signing up for? Like, we're doing this until we're in the little care home together with our little microphones, going, "Hi, guys."
Nobody's going to listen to podcasts anymore. It's going to be like the ancient texts. It's going to be like telling people you read things on a scroll.
I used to do a thing called a podcast.
Guys, how are we going to pay for the care home fees unless we monetize the podcast? We've got to think long-term planning here.
Bagsy, you're not dealing with that paperwork.
God.
It's fine. We could just live in a commune together and just live out our days by monetizing the podcast. That'd be great.
And all our literate cats. Yeah.
And all our cats and a hamster. Just away from the cats. But anyway, sorry, I'm just completely sidetracked. And
Speaking
I think we
of
need
cats.
What would our queen of cats say about this book, darling dear Gothmog?
Well, there are no actual... Oh, no, there are cats, right? Because one of the witches has a cat called Grimalkin.
Oh, I missed that in my adaptation.
It's like a tiny throwaway thing. That I think one of the witches has a familiar with her that's like a cat. So technically, there's a cat.
There's a lot of backstabbing.
There's murder. It's not, again, it's not joyful in the murder. People are not, like, rubbing their hands together with glee as they commit crimes. They're, like, miserable about it.
It's not knocking a glass off a table type crime, you know?
Yeah. Lady Macbeth kind of is rubbing her hands together with glee at the beginning.
And then is like, oh shit. She's like a cat that has gotten too much gunk on their paws and is now like, shit.
This is the thing, like, she has remorse, I think. Or certainly she has regrets. And I think at the end, Macbeth says, like, I wish this would all be undone. So, and that's antithetical to the cat lifestyle, is you never regret anything.
Oh, also, sorry, this just reminded me, but, like, I love the fact that Lady Macbeth is the one that kind of, she's experiencing remorse, she's feeling awful about it, she's being driven mad by her conscience, and such as it is. Contrast that to the end of Weird Sisters, where the Duchess is just like, I've seen it, I love it, I am all about the murder that lives in the back of my brain, actually, and I'm going to stab you about it.
See, that's Pratchett looking at Macbeth and going, I can do better.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, Shakespeare.
I have a point in favour of a slightly higher cat rating, which is that lots of people in this play are seeing things that aren't there.
Oh, that's an excellent
And if there's
point.
anything that cats love to do, more as much, if not more than murder, it's to stare at things that don't exist and occasionally try and kill them.
And you know what Gothmog also does after she commits, like, a stinky litterbox crime? She goes on a frenzy.
Yes!
Which is very Macbeth.
Yes, I've done a horrible crime and now I'm gonna, like, run up the walls about it.
Go absolutely wild, with my 20 knives that are attached to my feet.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I'm gonna put forward a 9.
Oh, interesting. So I would not go that high. I think a 7. I think the lack of shenanigan and
that's true. It's shenanigans.
Yes,
and the general stink of remorse that is all over this, I think, lowers it a bit for me.
Yeah, and I don't want to inflate the cat rating scale too much.
No, we have to preserve it. We have to preserve it for...
What do you think, Lottie? 7, 9, 8?
I was thinking a 7.
Lower?
A 7 or 8. Like, it's definitely it's a strong book, but it's not a temeraire, you know?
It lacks a certain je ne sais quoi for the cat rating scale, I feel.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, see, now I'm sitting there like, but there's witches, which is very spooky, and she's very spooky. See, now I've persuaded myself into an 8. That's a middle ground.
Yeah,
Okay, let's say 8.
settle on 8.
Let's draw a line under it and say 8. Before we wrap up, what else have you guys been reading, consuming, want to recommend to our lovely dear listeners?
We have in the household been watching the New Zealand Taskmaster, I think the second series of it.
Yes.
That's very fun. I like the people very much. Obviously, it's no Greg and little Alex Horn, but
it's a fun little dynamic. Yeah.
And then the other thing I've been doing is we are currently recording this during Advent in mid-December, and I have been doing the Advent of Code, which is every day there's a little fun code puzzle to solve, and I've been doing that alongside a bunch of my programmer friends, and we're all sort of taking the pick out of each other if we can't do it, and so forth. And that's been very fun. That's what I've been filling my time with.
Well, instead of doing Macbeth prep today, I finished The Ballad of Small Hope and Pennyroyal, which is I'm trying to work out how to describe it now. Imagine if... You know how sometimes in books there are a pair of scary people who are very competent and do crimes, and sometimes they follow you around and try and kill you? Mm-hmm. It's a book about those guys. Nice. Except they're doing, they're doing time crimes. They're doing time crimes and also, murdering people who have wronged them. And it's very good. It's very funny. It's very sharp. I found the time travel, not, egregiously annoying. Because that is one of the few places where my studied calm vis-a-vis not understanding what's going on falls apart. Is if the time travel, I'm like, this is breaking my brain, make it stop. But the time travel was good. I enjoyed it. Can heartily recommend. It's a good fun time.
Sorry, I'm just very distracted because my hamster's just woken up.
This is the new thing with Lottie, is that never mind the books or anything, it's the hamster. The hamster's the most important.
The hamster's now woken up. No, I've been, because I've been unwell, I've been trying to read books, and I've been finally finished Tales of Midnight, and I'm finally on my reread of Memory of Light, which is the last book in the Wheel of Time. I think I've only read the book twice because it just is a dagger to the heart. It is just the culmination of 13 books and decades of reading. And I remember very much when I first read the book at uni, and I locked myself away in my room, and I remember at the time I was sharing the sort of communal area with a friend, and they were like, "Are you all right?" I literally just came out, I think twice, to make a cup of tea or go to the loo or something. And I just basically read a book for 7 hours straight. and I think she thought I was a massive weirdo. I literally just sat down, read the book, and I was like, okay, right. And now I'm going to go back to work, because I knew I would never concentrate on my work.
Just got to get all done in one sitting. And then...
Yeah, so...
What is university for if not avoiding work?
Well, precisely.
Yeah. So yeah, I've started that, and I'm continuing my listen of The Two Towers, which is the only thing that's managed to make me go to sleep at the moment. But the thing is, now I'm getting into it. I have to go back and
re-listen. Yeah,
I have to go back and re-listen because I fall asleep, and then I'm like, hang on a minute, wait, what the hell's going on? But it just gives me great joy because Andy Serkis is reading the books, and all of the accents, he's obviously doing it.
He's got such a good voice.
All the accents are like the accents in the film, so it makes it a lot easier for me to understand who's what, because it's just
that's my friend Samwise Gamgee.
That's my friend Samwise. So yes, very much enjoying it.
To be clear, I know that Andy Serkis doesn't play Samwise Gamgee. That's Sean Astin, but he's the person I think of when I think of a comforting voice.
Yes, it's definitely a comforting voice. If you want an audiobook to listen to over many nights that works, I can recommend. And I'm just having a look at our planner for what's coming up after this episode.
Do we have a mini-episode?
It is yes, we have a mini episode. Our long way to the long way to a small angry planet is our mini episode, followed by our next full episode, which will be A Closed and Common Orbit, which is book 2 in the Wayfarer series, and I'm very, very excited.
I genuinely dreamt about that book last night, despite not having read it yet.
I'm just excited for cozy comfort read. I've earmarked it for my 2 weeks holiday. It's going to be a cozy comfort read.
I'm very excited.
When I get too sad from rereading Memory of Light, but yeah, I'm going to enjoy it a lot. But thank you all so much for listening. Remember to follow us on your podcast platform so you never miss an episode. And if you did enjoy this episode, please consider giving us a like or review. It does mean the world to us, and we do see them come through, and it makes our hearts and souls very happy. And it also helps more people like you find our podcast. You can email us with book recommendations, on our website. There's a contact page there that you can email us on. So say hello, send us a message, and recommend us some books to read. Big virtual hugs, and we will see you next time. Bye!